Now sit back and prepare to be entertained.
Okay, welcome to the Dripping Bucket, folks, where some crazy writers take some hostages from the writing community and force them to give us content by talking about themselves. I'm your host, Krystle Matar. I've got Michael Fletcher with me, and this time we've got Tim Hardie as a hostage. Tim is the author of a SPFBO finalist novel, Hall of Bones, and I believe A Quiet Vengeance was a semi-finalist as well. Is that right, Tim?
No, it's not right. It was
no.
Don't worry, great start. But
Okay.
it was well reviewed, but it got pipped to the post in that particular blog group. So it was, weirdly, it was. I suppose, we're talking about Quiet Vengeance journey. It was well reviewed by bloggers in the round. It definitely made more of a splash, but it just shows the nature of SPFBO. So Hall of Bones was straight to the finals, but Quiet Vengeance had a very different journey.
Well, there you go. So I've given Tim more credit than than belongs to him, but we're really fond of him, so we'll just pretend that he deserves.
That's absolutely fine.
So you came on. You invited yourself on, which I really admire and I appreciate, because I always worry about not knowing what to promise people. So I'm just gonna open the floor to you and let you kind of tell us how you got here. You've got, now I'm going to be wrong again, but you've got about 4 or 5 books published now, haven't you?
Yeah, a few different things. So I've got a main series, which is Hall of Bones was the first book in the Brotherhood of the Eagle. So that's like a Viking-inspired fantasy, fairly straightforward tale in that respect. So it's a 4-book series. I'm just about to finish that now.
Okay.
First 3 books are already out. You mentioned A Quiet Vengeance. That was my experimentation in trying standalones. Standalones are really hard to write. I have concluded from that. So that was, but also good fun, and it provides you a chance to do something very different. So that's like a Middle Eastern, North African inspired world that I've sort of set the story in. So it's trying something very, very different with that. And then I've got a couple of anthology stories sort of included in short stories included in an anthology. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Advent of Winter and then Anatomy of Fear.
That's right. Right. So Advent of Winter isn't actually out yet, and it's a bit annoying because it's now the 1st of March as we're talking, which is the first meteorological day of spring. But I don't know. I'm sure we can wing it somehow. So that's imminent. So it was released to its Kickstarter supporters last year, and it's about to go on general release imminently. So that's one to watch out for. And then last year I also contributed a horror fantasy fusion story, basically, to the Anatomy of Fear, which obviously, Krystle, we were on that project together. So that
one was a lot of fun.
I was really pleased with that one, actually, how that worked out. That's one of my favourite projects, actually.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, and for entirely selfish reasons, how did you find the standalone marketing, the standalone and sales versus the trilogies? And not at all because I have a standalone I'm working on.
How did I find that? I found it's difficult to, I think, reignite interest in something brand new. And I think particularly because for me, I deliberately wanted to put out something that was completely different as well. So I think, A Quiet Vengeance is really more character-driven fantasy. There's a lot of people talking, having cups of tea, and sort of discuss it. It's a political thriller, effectively, about a guy that goes off to negotiate on behalf of his kingdom. And when he gets to start the negotiations, he finds himself face to face with a character from his childhood. So it's also structured in a very different way. So it's like a dual timeline story. So Nimsa, the person he meets in the sort of present day part of the story, has her own timeline in the past that sort of tracks along. So the basic story kind of reveals who they are, how they got to know each other kind of gets revealed during the story rather than at the beginning, because I was able to play with time a bit. So that was a big shift from hairy Vikings running around and chopping lumps off each other. Although I do think
For
this was
which
a
you're
bit
so
more
well known.
sophisticated than that. So that it's a very different. So I think very different audiences fundamentally, really, for those. So I think I think in terms of marketing and that sort of thing, I kind of did the same for both. But there's no getting away from the fact that getting Hall of Bones into the final of SPFBO and being a finalist, that really was the start of my writing career. So I think if your books have different types of reception, or they just get that spotlight shone on them. You can't really manufacture that through a marketing strategy. It either happens or it doesn't really.
Yeah. So then I guess I'm really curious how you ended up with Hall of Bones. So that Hall of Bones is the first in the trilogy, as well as, the series, as well as your first published novel. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so was it one of those projects that cooked for a very, very long time, like some authors, or is that something that you came to recently? Or I'm interested. I don't think I've ever heard you talk about the journey.
No, I'm not sure.
Publishing.
I'm not sure I have. So I think it.
Breaking news here, folks.
So yeah. Basically, I was a terrible novelist for a very long time. Some of them I still haven't got it right yet. But I was a terrible novelist for a long time because I basically tried. I thought, how hard can it be? And this is about 2005. I sat down and thought, quite like reading, quite like writing. Let's just go in and do epic fantasy from the get-go. Because to be fair, that's my first. That's my first love, literary. In terms of literary fiction and things. I read widely, but I knew I was only ever going to write fantasy. I wasn't going to write a legal thriller or espionage or anything like that. It was going to be set in that kind of world. So about 2005 to 2000 and let me think, I want to say 2011, I laboured over my terrible trunk novel, and it was just I made every single possible mistake you could make. And I think a lot of the reason why I did that was I wasn't on social media. I didn't really engage other writers. I assumed that every writer worked in a cave and had, just never, disintegrated when they were faced with the sun. And I kind of
entirely wrong.
Well, to be fair, some do don't go down that road, don't they? And so I kind of got to that point in about 2011 where I thought, you know what, I'll stick it out to sub and on the traditional publishing circuit. And I wrote to a guy called John Jarrold, who you might have heard of.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a really lovely rejection email from him, which basically said, this is quite old-fashioned. Why don't you read some new more current fantasy writers and see what you think? So I picked up people like Joe Abercrombie, Mark Lawrence, John Gwynne, and people like that. I think it was Mark Lawrence was the first of that trio I picked and began to read. I thought the genre's really, really moved on, and I suddenly realised I was writing the fantasy of the 1980s really badly. This is a hugely long. But I do get better. I promise you, I do get better as this journey continues.
Eventually, you're a SPFBO finalist, so it must work out.
Yeah, so I thought, I looked at the book I've written, which I'd laboured over for about 5 years, I think, in total. I thought, I'm going to have to bin it because it cannot be saved. Oh, no. This is a dead project. What it did have is it did have the world, it did have the religion, it did have the map, those sort of the character fantasy rate. It had all of that. It just wasn't a very good story. And so I thought I'd have to write something new. And then this has only ever happened once. I just had this bolt from the blue about that character of Hrothgar, who was the protagonist of Hall of Bones. I thought,
right.
I kind of, I think I could write that, and it just kind of it flowed from there. But having said that, I started that in 2011. I didn't actually independently publish that book until 2020, so I was still on a very long journey, getting to grips with what it involved. But interesting, although John Joel rejected my first novel, I went back to him with Hall of Bones when I finished the first draft, and he took me on as a client off the back of that book.
Oh, there you go. So
he gave me some excellent advice, and so he rejected me the first time, but came full circle. I actually ended up as one of his clients the next time round.
That story is very relatable, though. I think we all start off writing the most terrible derivative, horrible sludge that is known to man. And fortunately, some of us are stubborn enough to keep trying and evolve past that point.
Yeah.
What was yours, Krystle? Mine was Snow Crash. I basically tried to write Snow Crash again.
What was mine? Mine was oh geez. This is a long time ago, but it was very much heroic fantasy of like only one man can save the city from et cetera, et cetera. It was very Druss, except Druss was a lot younger and had an attitude problem because I was younger and had an attitude problem. And it was like, oh man, like he carried 6 different swords with him at all times, and you know, all of that crap, that overwrought D&D character style. But you know, now here I am not writing heroic fantasy at all, so it evens out, I guess.
I think you have to though, because I think I just in 2005 I was just an idiot. And I asked the question, how hard can it be? And the answer is it's really, really hard.
It is really hard. Yeah.
I do think that we need to acknowledge that what we're doing here, you know, when we put, 12 months, 18 months into writing a novel, the reason it takes that length of time is because it's actually really, really difficult. You only incrementally get better. So, I had no idea. If I'd known how ridiculously, insanely hard it was, I'd have probably become a cage fighter or something like that, because that would have been easier than trying to
ninja, race car driver, or writer. It was one of the 3. Writer seemed easier. Fuck.
Yeah, if only. If only. It's really rewarding. I guess we all do it because we love doing it. I can't think of anything else I do that I enjoy as much as in terms of the satisfaction I get from writing and talking to people like you guys and reading the stuff you put out. That's brilliant. But it's at the end of the day, there's a massive difference in effort between writing good, excellent, and outstanding, and hitting those heights where suddenly someone really engages with your writing, and you can't really even explain where you are on that spectrum.
You can't tell. No.
Moment, can you?
And I think our awareness of our skills evolves faster than our actual skills, which is why it always feels like we're not growing, if that makes sense. Like, our taste evolves really quickly, and like, this is what good prose looks like, this is what good world building looks like, but we have to drag our physical skills along with that taste.
Right. So as you're slowly getting better, you're more and more aware of how bad you are.
Exactly. So it doesn't feel like change, except on the off occasion when you feel like kind of a little bit of self-abuse by opening all those old projects and looking at how bad your writing used to be.
No, my trunk novel's the final seer, and I will never read it again.
No, you can't do it.
Never.
Yeah.
But I won't delete it either. So when I die, my children probably will just depublish it because they thought I forgot to do it or something awful like that.
You'll have to leave something in your will. You're allowed to look at it, but please, for the love of God, don't release it.
Please, no. Oh, God, I wish I'd not said that. I'm going to dream about that tonight. That will be my nightmare.
80s fantasy is going to come back. The kids will publish it. It's going to be a huge smash hit.
Yeah.
They'll live off your royalties for generations.
Market it as retro fantasy, maybe.
Yeah, when you say it like that, I don't want that for my children, really. That would destroy everything I've stood for and worked for my entire life, Fletch. But yeah. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do it now. Can I do it now?
Well, way to go, Fletcher. Look what you did now. He's deleting his legacy. So then, out of all of that, we got Hall of Bones. And you said about 2020 is when you published it. Is that right? That was kind of an auspicious time to publish, where some stuff was going on in the world, and it made a lot of people read a lot, but it also made us a little bit crazier. How was that experience for you, publishing into 2020, or was it kind of one of those things where? Yeah,
you're right. It was a COVID project. It was a COVID project that started in 2011, but it finally. Yeah. So I went the trad route originally, and I carried on writing the series while we were out to sub, and eventually we decided. Myself and John Jarrell decided, actually, you know what, we're going to move to a different project. It's time for Hall of Bones to have its moment, because I thought it was good enough, but it was. yeah, I think I needed something during COVID to do that was
Yeah.
productive and new and constructing all those things. Yeah, I put it out. I had the worst possible launch imaginable because I accidentally published it without meaning to, so it immediately went live. That was annoying.
Oh no.
But I didn't know about, or I had, it never would have occurred to me to go on a podcast like this or get people to
Yeah.
write. So I thought I put it out. Thought right. Now,
That's done
please
now.
buy my book. I put a tweet out and thought, my job, that's that job done. And again, I'm basically an idiot. I'm an idiot bashing away at the keyboard, slowly getting to grips with this over many years. And so I put it out, and then I had the usual thing. My friends and family bought it, and it was like, yay!
Yeah.
And then nobody bought it. Nobody read it on Kindle Unlimited, and it just tracked along in this like petering. So I put the second book out. And that did nothing as well. Pushed it for a month. And that was it. I was just absolutely at the rock bottom of that process. And it was the SPFBO 7, so 2021, getting picked as the finalist was it literally launched that. I say it launched my career. It launched my career to hundreds of sales. But it compared to what I was before.
That's a big.
You see that immediate impact of what it did. Don't do that. Don't just you need to be. Again, you need to be as organised when it comes to launching stuff and putting stuff out and do as you do writing the thing. And again, that was a massive, learning curve experience for me, really.
Although, I mean, for whatever it's worth, that is also a very common story that we hear as we talk to people, where that first book teaches us so many things, and a lot of them are really hard lessons to learn, and they make us feel like idiots. But I mean. How can you know unless you're already into the community, So, and I feel it goes to show that we put too much pressure. For all that you can be very prepared and have a very good launch, sure, that's a good thing. But we put too much pressure on ourselves to get it right the first time, because once it's published. You then have the rest of the time that it's published to try to market it and figure this stuff out. And then now you're four published novels in, a SPFBO finalist, and you've got all this history behind you that has taught you where to go and all these professional relationships that help you. And it's pulling your book up with you. And I think that is a really cool journey. So you can stop.
It's a journey of persistence, isn't it?
Yes.
Really. Again, you kind of think that the momentous achievement of writing your first novel is obviously it is. There's a massive high.
Yeah.
I'll always look at that book, and I've got it right here. I should have flashed on screen. I shouldn't have. I will always look at that and say, I'll be super proud of that book, and always will be. There's nothing else will I think ever quite feel the same for me.
No.
But. No one ever builds a writing career off a single book unless they happen to sell millions of things, and that happens like once in a lightning strike, basically, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
it's so rare. But being able to put a book out every year is actually so far I've managed to do that for in terms of getting to book number 4 and so on. So it's possible, but it's a very gradual for me. It's been a very very gradual journey, basically.
Yeah, and I think the gradual journey is by and large the most common journey. It's like you said, the giant debuts are so rare, but they skew our perception of what success looks like. Whereas it's far more common that were people just kind of too stubborn to quit, and then eventually. Our sales build a career for us.
No, I think understanding, for example, I'll always be marketing Hall of Bones. I honestly didn't think. I just thought I'd market each one in turn, and I'd never look at it again. Tim Hardie, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. I don't know what this people who make listening to them watching this, but it proves you can be successful and be an idiot as long as you're prepared to learn every time you make a monumental blunder along the way in public and for everybody to see, basically.
Yeah.
I kind of make the same mistakes like every single book.
Well, that's
You
easy.
open that fresh document and I think, how do you write a book?
You,
I was
you
like,
must know by now, surely. You've written loads of them.
I know, but there's always that moment of like, so how does a story start? Yeah, and you start writing, you're like, no, that's not it. That's really not it. You delete that. And then, you put the book out and there's always that like, how do you market? I still don't know. I don't really know. You just kind of, you market by like yelling at people and, being strange online.
Yeah, we've cornered the market on that.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
Yeah, I find I'm particularly impressed that you were able to do the standalone in the midst of your series, because I've been trying to do that, and I've spent so long now working on the Tainted Dominion series, even though it's only 2 books. I'm so well accustomed to the language that story needs, and the world and the characters, that anytime I pivot into something that's unconnected, I'm like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they need from me. And then I just kind of scurry back to working on the Dominion where it's comfortable and safe, except it's also horrifically exhausting. So kudos to you for being able to break out of that cycle of
it was actually done because I had to. I know what you mean. You're right. So like in A Quiet Vengeance, the world is the same world, but it's a different continent. So the culture's very different. You like to say completely different character. I deliberately had made sure there were no crossover characters of any kind to give it that separation. But I just got I got sort of series fatigue. So I wrote the 3rd book, Lost Gods, and I thought Hall of Bones. I didn't know what I was doing. Sundered Souls book 2. I didn't know what I was doing, and it was really, really good. It just flowed. That book was just bang straight out. I'm probably the most proud. That was the easiest writing journey for me. Lost Gods then just went into this weird. I think again, just maybe fatigue and just finding it hard. Writing one novel is its own experience, isn't it? Then developing the stamina to write more. I just got really lost with that book to the point where I absolutely hated it and wanted to burn it. So I needed to step away and do something completely different. And so A Quiet Vengeance was kind of like a bit of a crisis novel for me. I wasn't sure I'd be able to go back and finish the series, but I knew I needed mental. So basically, I was taking a year out of writing that series to give myself that mental break.
Just to maintain your own sanity for a little while, long enough to consider going again.
Just to be clear as well, when I went back to Lost Gods, I repaired it. It was brilliant by the end.
Oh, that's good.
Just to be absolutely clear for anybody listening out here thinking maybe I don't want to read book 3, I did remedy it, but I had to. It needed proper surgery at that point compared to number 2. So
I do love the idea of accidentally writing a book to avoid writing the book that you're supposed to be writing. Like, I don't know, half of my books are books I wrote avoiding writing some other book.
Cool.
Yeah, particularly the ones in the series, because those are the ones
all the trilogies,
like
which is why like this last year, like I think I finished 3 trilogies in one year, like the last book for each one. Which dating back to 2009, the first one started
for Beyond Redemption
for writing that.
Finishing a series is hard, isn't it? I'm glad I know someone who has, because
it's possible.
Book 3 is always scary.
You can survive it, but you need to be really deeply insane, like Michael.
I mean, do you feel like that kind of pressure to finish it? I mean, obviously, I feel a pressure to finish it well. I'm guessing I'm not really aspiring to finish it badly, am I? But it's what is a good ending? What does that look like? Is something I'm still trying to figure out with this.
Like
written, but it needs a lot of editing now.
Yeah, did you wrap up all of the sort of various storylines? Is it satisfying in the right way? Is it different enough? People aren't like, oh yeah, that again, cool, great, it is hugely difficult, especially if you're always trying to, push yourself, which I assume you are. Yeah. You're always like, how do I finish this sort of crazier than the last one?
So it turns out one of the ways to do it is to make Clayton Snyder write the book for you. So
Oh yeah, cheating
Tim-
is always good.
Is
He
that
has
an
to write
option?
half your book.
Does it- I hadn't even thought of that. Is he available?
Yeah, he might be. I think Fletcher, you've let him loose to go do his own projects by now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, he's working on his own thing again now.
So there you go, Tim. Now's the time to slip him a little bribe and see if he'll come write your fourth book for you.
I've got an exit strategy. That's good news.
Just in case, yeah. All right, so I guess that pretty well sums us up for our first episode with Tim Hardie. So I wanted to thank you, Tim, for inviting yourself on and letting us pick your brains about this very relatable journey to publishing. I think most of us have that book that we're a little bit ashamed of, or several of them, in my case. But anyway, so thank you very much for coming on, and then we'll keep you and talk about your upcoming Kickstarter next.
That'd be great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.